For any of you then that have never seen my channel or heard my dulcet ramblings, I am Wiggy Rides, and this is my 2022 Panigale V4S. And by the time you watch this Panigale V4S will have been sold for reasons that are quite frankly not important right now, but if you want to find out why, you'll have to wait a few months. So I figured it'd be a nice time to actually do a bit of a review. I've owned it for 4 years, 9,333 miles completed. This bike has been with me through commutes, all year round riding, track days, all manner of stuff that you would expect to do on a Panigale. So I figured, you know what, I'm leaving work for the final time on it. I'll go the long way home and I'll just talk about what it's been like to own for the last 4 years. But let's start off by parking up and let's have a look round it. Let's have a good walk round, shall we? Yeah, so here we are then. This is my 2022 Panigale V4S. It's been an absolutely stunning bike for me. I bought it from new June 2022. It's now May 2026, so nearly 4 years, pretty much 1 month shy of 4 years. I've done 9,500 miles, 9,333 I think it is, and I've used it for general commuting. I've done track days on it, so Mallory Park, Donington Park and Silverstone I've done on it. I've done Wee Riders 1 with Ducati, I've done some ride outs on it, but mainly it's commuting, spirited weekend riding, that sort of stuff. And I've got to be honest, as far as bikes go, it's absolutely bloody fantastic. It has its downfalls, which we'll talk about in a bit once we get out on the road, but like I said, the time has come for reasons that aren't really important right now. It is time to say goodbye to this. So tomorrow I'm taking it to my local dealership where they've agreed to buy it, and this is my last, proper ride out. And apparently it's raining tomorrow as well, which is a bit crap. So yeah, I'm going to ride the long way home. We'll talk about this. I'll tell you how I genuinely feel about it, the good, the bad, everything. I'm not a journo, okay, so it's not going to be majorly in depth. I'm not going to start talking about throttle bodies and all that sort of crap, because I don't understand that stuff. I'm just a normal everyday Joe who's owned this for 4 years. So let's get cracking, shall we? So one of the good points then, initially it's quite obvious really. It's a 215 brake horsepower V4 built by Ducati with a Desmo Sedici engine. It's like, it screams its head off. I mean, if you look down there, there's 15,500 revs this thing goes to because of the Desmotromic valves. So when you get the thing wound up, it sounds and goes like a scolded cat. So the engine alone is just absolutely stupendous. The looks are fantastic. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's got the funky winglets down the bottom there, and loads of people will talk about the winglets, and everybody's got an opinion on winglets. The reality is, on this bike, and I can only talk about this bike, I don't know about the other manufacturers, but on this bike they are absolutely useless below 70 miles an hour. It's as simple as that. They do nothing below 70 miles an hour. However, at 185 miles an hour, which is not this bike's top speed, this bike will do about 205, but at 185 miles an hour they will create 30 kilograms of downforce. Now, when I've been riding this thing around a circuit, Donington in particular is quite a high speed sort of twisty circuit. It's a rider's circuit, and Silverstone as well actually, because that's a very fast circuit. It's just wide and quick. you can actually feel the stability from those wings. It's really weird, because you'll look down and see some ridiculous numbers below you, 140, 150, 160, but the bike just feels planted and secure and lovely, and you just feel confident and awesome with it. So that may be just the mixture of the wheels, the top of the range electronic suspension by Öhlins. I don't know what it is, but a combination of all of them, I don't know. But this thing round the corners, when I first got it, thinking about the tyres, it came with the Pirelli Diablo Super Coursers on it. Now granted, my first set of tyres lasted me 800 miles and they cost me over 600 quid to replace. I replaced them with OEM, so the same tyre again. I only got 500 miles out of those, and that was including a track day. So bloody expensive, but I have never felt so much grip and feedback from any bike I've ever ridden. It was unbelievable. So handling on this is absolutely stupendous. The brakes are absolutely savage. There is a downside to the brakes as well. That might just be this bike, I don't know, but again, comment that later. But the brakes are savage on this. The engine is, the way that the engine is, the power is delivered, it's progressive. That's the best way to explain it. You get on a Japanese bike, it doesn't really do a great deal till you get to sort of 11,000 revs, and then it just unleashes many horses, and it pulls your arms off, smacks you with the soggy end and laughs at you. This is different. This is a very linear, predictable power delivery. So although it's an intimidating amount of power for a lot of riders, and I don't mean that in a belittling way, the way that it delivers the power is quite predictable. You have to think about what you're doing, but it is quite predictable. Now granted, once it gets up to sort of 10,000-11,000 revs, it unleashes even more power, but not that savage. So the power delivery, albeit amazing, is predictable and manageable. Coupled with the stupendously ridiculous handling, that is way past anything I can do. I've never come anywhere near using, you know, anything that this bike can deliver. You know, when you had, I think it was Nevesy from Motorcycle News, even he said as well that bikes like these now are even outperforming these test riders, and you know, these guys are ex-racers, you know, they know what they're talking about, they know how to push a bike to its limit, and even they're saying now that these modern bikes, you know, they're so advanced that you can't get near the limit. This one, you know, I was giving it absolutely everything at Silverstone, to the point where my nerves were tattered. I was absolutely exhausted, thinking I was riding like Marc Marquez. This thing's just sat underneath me, looking up at me, just saying, you know, let me know when we're getting started, mate. It's ridiculous. The sound that this thing develops as well. So this is, so the later editions, the 2025, 26 Panigales and the Street Fighters, they've been choked a bit. So you can hear underneath me there the thudding, the lovely deep thudding that's coming from the exhaust. You don't get that with the newer ones. And this also has the technology in it as well, because it generates a lot of heat. It actually, like now for example, sitting here at the traffic lights not doing anything, the rear bank of cylinders have shut down, and that's to save energy, save fuel, save heat, that sort of thing. So it's got loads of technology in there that is just, you know, you don't even notice it sometimes, but it's there and it's absolutely brilliant. Riding position for a super bike is surprisingly comfortable. Now granted, I'm 5'8" or 173 centimetres. I am not a tall bloke. I am, for the UK, a normal sized bloke, and the riding position here is really nice actually. You know, my feet aren't too high up, my legs aren't cramped, it's a fair reach to the bars but not uncomfortable. The bars are wide enough apart that you've actually got a good feel for the bike. You've got control over the bike again without feeling like you're doing press-ups. It's a really comfortable place to be. The seat itself, the padding on the seat is very good. It's very comfortable. You can do long distances. I've been sat on this before for a couple of hours, done, you know, 100, 200 miles And yes, you're going, it's a super bike, you're going to get off at the other end not as comfortable and not as refreshed as if you were riding a adventure bike or a cruiser, that sort of thing. But for a super bike, it is surprisingly comfortable, especially if you're my size. It's a very nice place to sit. It's a bit wristy, I guess, compared to some others, but then, you know, it's what you're used to. You soon get used to that. Ergonomics and switch gear and so on, you know, nowadays you're riding around, and as you can see by my handlebars, you know, years ago you had an indicator on the left, you had high beam and lights on off, that was frigging it. There's lights, switches, buttons everywhere on these things now. But to be honest, on this bike, they're really easy. You get a really good feel for them. You know, they're engineered well. You know, you can feel in your finger when you've turned your indicator on or when you've turned it off. You know, the on-off start buttons, the selector modes for all of your dashboard and your changes of riding modes, etc. You know, they all work so well. Clutch on this is really light as well. Actually, you don't get a lot of finger fatigue from it, which is great. Now, bearing in mind as well, it's, you know, it's got a shifter and auto blipper on it, so once you pulled away, you don't even need it anyway. Even riding around town, you can quite easily, and I'll demonstrate it from these lights, but you can quite easily use the auto blipper at slow speed. So clutch is out, you're in the 30 zone, first gear, which you can stay in first gear, and if you want to, just seamlessly, beautiful and smooth into second, even riding around at these speeds. It's just so well engineered, just down again like on the auto blipper. Just so well engineered, and it's smooth as well. It's a nice transition, it's not clunky or horrible. But that's the same throughout the rev range. And there's even, interesting, you can even adjust the sensitivity of it as well, which is just stupendous. So you can make it more aggressive for racing, you can make it lighter for a bit of road riding, you can actually adjust the timing between the actual shifts. It's just brilliant. So another good thing about it as well is it gets some looks. If, like me, you do have a undying need or a necessity for people to acknowledge your existence, this is actually quite the bike to be on, really. I don't necessarily like being the centre of attention, but whenever you pull up somewhere to a bike meet, or that lad back there sat in the bus stop, people stop and look at this, you know. They ask you about it, they talk about it, people will walk over at a bike meet, you know, especially the younger guys out there, and they would just say, oh my god, you know, that is so amazing, this is what I aspire to get. You know, we've all been there, not necessarily a Ducati, but whatever your brand is, whatever, you know, was your poster bike when you were sort of learning and on your earlier rides and so on. But, right, it's not all good. It's not all good. It is a stupendous bike. Like I say, I've used it throughout winter. It doesn't come out much in the winter, but I have used it in the winter. I have ridden it in cold, you know, horrible, damp, rainy days. I've done a track day in the pouring rain. This is not a fair weather bike, you know, it gets used. I do have a second bike, which I purchased because of this. So I bought a YZF R3, which I do use all year round, because I can't understand anybody that only, you know, that can go longer than a week without riding. Makes no sense. If I go more than 2 or 3 days without getting on a motorcycle, I start getting all grumpy and weird. But this does get used. No, what was I fucking saying then? I've lost it. So is this a good everyday bike? Well, when I bought it, I remember seeing there was a chap that had just bought theirs on the internet. And he actually only ever owned that Panigale. Didn't have a car, didn't have another bike, didn't have anything. That was his only mode of transportation. He was going to ride it all year round, all winds and weathers, commuting to work, etc, etc. And I thought to myself, blimey, if he can do that, then surely I can. But I very quickly realised that actually what I don't want to do is spend £27,000 on a bike like this, only to ride it throughout the winter, because I have to ride. I can't go more than a few days without riding. I get all grumpy and withdrawal symptoms. And I thought, I just don't want this bike to degrade because of the respect for the bike. So I bought myself a YZF-R3, which I use all year round. I've still got it at home. He's called Little Pop, love him. But I got the YZF-R3 so that this then, during the winter months, only comes out once a month, just to, you know, go for a spin, keep the battery topped up, keep the oil turning round, you know, that sort of thing. And then in the winter, obviously, we ride it. So like I say, I've owned it for 4 years, just over 9,000 miles, so around 2,500 miles a year in all sorts of scenarios. And, you know, it's done well. It's done everything I wanted to. Right now, I'm on my way home from work, going around the long way. I've got a rucksack on my back because I don't want to put luggage on it, because, well, you're stupid and it's difficult to find luggage that fits anyway. But it will quite happily take me to work and back. It will quite happily take me around track days and so on. But it is an expensive bike, and it is a bit expensive to run. So, on that note as well, onto the, and I'm not going to say bad, I'm going to say onto the less helpful things, yeah, because, you know, it's not bad, it's just, is it helpful? So there has been, and that might just be this bike, there has been an ongoing issue with this bike, with the back brake. So not long after I bought it, within the first year, the back brake lever, I could push it all the way down as far as it would go, and the brake wasn't engaging. I took it into the dealership. They did everything they could with draining the brakes, bleeding the brakes, doing stuff with the servos, because it's all ABS and all that sort of stuff. And it kind of worked, but even now I'm riding along and I can push the lever all the way down. Can push the lever pretty much all the way down before the back brake actually does anything. So the back brake, and it might just be this bike, other owners may not have a problem, but the back brake on this one has been shockingly bad. Luckily I'm not a back brake user much anyway. Front brake lever is a bit spongy, but the front brake is still savage. You know, still loads of bite, loads of grip. It will pull you up no problem. But the lever, I notice, is a bit spongy, so I'm not too keen on the brakes. What else have we got? So, travelling at slow speed now, so the heat that comes off this thing, and this is known, you know, this is an ongoing joke now with other manufacturers and people that own other bikes, you know, and they say, oh, when you ride a Ducati in the summer it's like sitting on fire. This thing does get volcanic hot. It's ridiculous. But that's because the exhaust is wrapped round right under my right bum cheek, and the rear bank of cylinders are nestled lovingly under my testicles. The heat that comes off this thing is stupendous. It's a high performance engine. It's going to generate energy. That energy is going to turn to heat. That's the kind of energy it's giving off, and there's lots of it. So yeah, if you don't like heat, do not buy this bike, because it gets bloody hot on here. When you are out on the country roads, when you are out, you know, at speed, sort of 50-60 miles an hour, you don't notice it. You really don't notice it. It's absolutely fine. You get a bit warm, but it's fine. It's fine. It's the slow speed stuff, like now, going through a village, sitting in traffic in a town, that sort of stuff. That's where you really notice the heat coming through, and it can get very, very warm. Anything other than proper riding kit and you will quite easily end up with blisters on the inside of your legs. It's that warm. One of the other things that I've noticed on this that I'm not a fan of is the vibrations. So again, it's a V4 engine, it's a high performance engine, there's a lot of energy going on down there, and what that can do is, if you're in quite a high gear and you open the throttle, so anything below sort of 4,000 revs, if you're doing 3,000 revs in 4th gear and you pin the throttle open, the vibration through here is just like, it's shocking. So you do have to try and keep the engine spinning around 3-4 upwards. You know, don't give it a fistful. It likes to be revved. You know, anything above that is absolutely fine, but it is a bit vibrating. You know, if you compare it to a nice inline 4-cylinder, for example, you know, you're going to have a nice, smooth, balanced engine there, so it doesn't vibrate as much. Whereas this, yeah, it can get a bit shaky from time to time. I've had my camera mount fall off the mirror on a number of occasions because it vibrated it off. You know, it happens. Another thing then that is very well known about this bike, no fuel gauge. Got a lovely dash, lovely TFT screen down there. It gives me so much information, it's ridiculous. But they couldn't even put a fuel gauge on there. What's all that about? Christ, even my cheap ass R3's got a bloody fuel gauge on it. This, nothing. But because I'm old, I learnt the trick years ago that you pull up to the petrol station, you fill it up, you reset the trip. And you can see I've done 41.3 miles since my last fill up. And I know that this tank will last 100 miles before the petrol light comes on. Then I think you've got about 30 miles, otherwise that's it, you're dry. But yeah, no fuel gauge, what's all that about? And that's the other thing as well, fuel economy. It claims, so at the moment it's claiming 38.9 to the gallon. I can fill this up for about 20-ish pounds and you will get 100 miles out of it. It does like a drink, but again, high performance engine. Yeah, I'll show you the vibration. Yeah, below 4,000 revs, top gear, so if it'll hit it, look at that vibration, that's crazy. Change down the gears a bit, get the revs spinning up nicely and pin it. Absolutely fine. I just thought I am heading towards Chipping Norton. You know, where should I have turned? I should have turned. Oh fuck! I should have turned there. Oh well. Well, said Nell as she fell down the well. Fucking hell. Nearly the end of the fucking Panigale, that was. So here's a good thing, look. So under here, you have a key, look, and there is your storage. Just enough room in there for your visor cleaner and a wipe, which I've just had to use because there are dead things all over my face, which is nice. So you could say that's a bad thing because there's not a lot of storage, but it's a frigging superbike, mate. You don't need storage on a superbike. Of course you don't. So before we carry on then, should you buy one of these? I'm going to be honest with you, if you want a second hand, there'll be loads of second hand ones of these now on the market. I think this one with the 10,000 miles on the clock, UK price anywhere between 19 and 20,000 for the S model, maybe a bit less for the non-S model. The difference being electric suspension, magnesium Marcini wheels. Should you buy one? If you know it's going to run hot and you can deal with the heat. Some of the other issues that are on it, obviously that might just be my bike with the brakes, and as I've mentioned. But why wouldn't you? If you can afford it, why wouldn't you? And price wise, yes, it's a Ducati. It's going to cost you a little bit more to run. That back tyre, for example, is a 200 section. Because it's a 200 section, it adds 100 quid to the tyres. So I've got Pirelli Rosso 4s on it at the moment, and you can get 2,000 miles out of those easily. So you can get a season out of those depending on how much you ride. That cost me 450 quid, 465 quid for the tyres, that's fitted. would be 365 quid if that rear was a 190, but it's not, it's a 200. The servicing on this, on average, you're not going to get much change from 350 quid, and that's once a year. And when every 15,000 miles you've got to do a desmodromic valve service, which is around £1,500. I've already mentioned fuel. You're only going to get 100 miles out of that tank, and at the moment it's going to run you about 25 quid to fill it up. So yes, it's not cheap. However, bikes are generally hobbies. You've already spent money on something that's not a necessity anyway, so why not spend a little bit more and get something like this? If you're old like me, I'm nearly 50, my insurance is only 400 quid a year, fully comp, I can ride anything. You know, it's kind of a no-brainer to me, but that's if you like this kind of thing. If you don't buy one. But if you want one of these and you can afford 20 grand, bloody do it. Why not? They are stupendous. Right, we'll carry on with the ride then. I haven't really got more to say about it, to be fair, actually, so I might knock it on the head here. But if I think of anything else, I'll just add it in. But in general, a fantastic bike. You can use it every single day, but it's going to cost you a couple of quid. I've never had a single reliability issue with it. The only thing that's ever happened is twice in the 4 years I've owned it, at slow speed, when I've used the blipper to knock down from second to first, the engine's cut out. You pull in the clutch, jump on, you bump start it while you're still rolling. That's the only things that's ever happened. Everything else on this bike has just been faultless. So all this talk about, don't jet wash it, don't snow foam it because it's a Ducati, it won't start, that's all crap. They're German owned now. They're owned by Volkswagen Group. The Germans have been in, sorted out all the problems, all the previous issues with the unreliability, and they are just fantastic bikes. Yeah, if you can afford it and this is the sort of thing you're after, I definitely recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks as well for joining me on my last ever ride on this thing. Like I said, tomorrow I'm just literally riding it to the dealership and it's gone. It's a shame, but the future's bright. Like I said, a few months, if you subscribe to the channel, stick around, watch some of my other dronings that I get up to, yeah, you'll eventually see what's going on. But for now, I've got to say goodbye to Rosso Grande. Cheers, everyone.